So you got a Mercedes-Benz and you want the AC to work, you push the AC button and it flashes at you. Or you have an AC off button and it's constantly lit. Here's why. The reason the AC won't work is because you have zero pressure or very low pressure in your system. Typically the low side runs about 30 PSI and the high side runs anywhere between 150 up to 300, depending on if it's a cycling clutch or if it's a swash plate design. In order to get the AC to work again, you have to do two things. One, you have to fill the refrigerant to the proper fill level. There's only one correct way to do this, and that's to use a machine like the one here behind me. You can use cans at the parts store. I don't recommend that. I only recommend that, after I say don't recommend it, to fill up just enough, like say if you're on a road trip home and you want to get some cold air and you got 200 more miles to drive. You cannot determine the proper fill level from those little gauges they put on those cans. Those gauges are not accurate, and I do not personally like them. It's the best for an AC system to operate at the exact fill level. Too low and too high can damage the system, so keep that in mind. Number two, what you have to do is once you fill it to the proper fill, you have to erase the code. Once you erase the code in the air conditioning module, then the system will go back to normal. That is how you reset your air conditioning system in a Mercedes-Benz. Now, if you want a quick overview of how the AC machine actually works and why I recommend it, go ahead and keep watching. There's a low side and a high side. Low side runs about 30 PSI. High side runs between 150 and 300. 150 will be on the newer cars where you don't hear the compressor kick on and off. 300 will roughly be on the older cars where you hear the clutch cycling, okay? Low side's indicated by blue. High side is indicated by red. If you want to know what the high side is, it's the smaller line, and the low side is the bigger line. What we do is we connect each of the gauges. We screw them on. Once they're screwed on, we open the valves. If there's already refrigerant in the car, we would hit recover. What that does is it sucks all of the refrigerant from the car into the machine, and it will tell you how much it pulled out of the machine. That's how we know how low it was. If the system holds 1.5 pounds and we pull out under a pound, we know the system's typically low. If the car has 10 or more years on it, it can be low due to age. If the car is only a couple years old, it could have a leak. So we add oil dye to it, and then we use a UV light with yellow glasses, and it shows the leak. Since I just replaced a brand new condenser, there's going to be zero PSI of pressure and absolutely no vacuum. So what I have to do first is I'm going to vacuum the system. It asked me how long. Typically we want to do 45 minutes. And we watch, this will pull the gauge down to -30. So I'm going to go ahead and do 45 minutes. Then I'm gonna hit start. Right now it's pulling a vacuum on the system. The reason for pulling a vacuum is it sucks all of the air out of the system. We want nothing but liquid refrigerant in there, and in the system it'll change between a liquid and a gas and all that. I'm not going to give you an education on how the AC system works. I'll just explain to you why we use this machine. Well, I'm going to vacuum it down for 45 minutes and I'm going to let it sit. And after that, it's going to show if there's a leak or not, if the vacuum goes from -30 over to 0. That's how we check for a leak before we put Freon in there. I'm not even 1 minute in, and we're already at -30, so it's pulling a vacuum right now. Another reason we pull a vacuum is it sucks all of the moisture out of the system. There's a dryer in this car, a receiver dryer, and it sucks the moisture out, or it has a desiccant bag. Those little bags you find in cases that say do not eat silica gel, there's stuff like that in there. Now, I went ahead and paused it just for the video, but what I would do next is I would do a charge that would ask me how much I want to charge into it, and then the system will kick on and it will start filling up the car. If the system slows the charge, then what we do is we turn on the car, turn on the AC, and it helps pull the rest of the AC Freon into the car. Once the system is full, we'll stop it, we'll close the lines, it'll clear out the lines, the gauge will go back down to 0, and then we're done. The reason for using the machine is if you have a dead system or you're repairing something, you have to pull a vacuum on the system first. There's a couple different ways to do this. You can rent a vacuum pump, and then you can buy or find somebody with a refrigerant tank and a scale, and then you weigh it as you're putting it into the car, and you just subtract as it goes down, and that's how you know that the car is filled. You don't just go by the temperature in the dash because you can overfill the system. What happens when you overfill the system? The compressor works harder because it's trying to compress all of that extra freon and gas in there. And also it'll freeze up the evaporator. The system has to have a perfect charge in there so it can flow through the system. It goes from a gas to a liquid over and over and over again. I'm sure there's videos out there on how the AC system actually works. I know how it works in my brain, but I'm not that smart to explain to you how it works. So I hope this video helped. Just a brief introduction on how to reset the Mercedes-Benz AC system. I'm not sure what other brands use this kind of technology, but most will kick out the compressor. Some will erase the code on their own once you fill up to the right pressure. So, or the right fill level, which is weighted by pounds and ounces. Some will show kilograms, some will show grams. There's a sticker in the engine bay that always shows you the fill level. So again, hope this video helps. Take care. Thanks.